Hey all, I've had a few requests to see my upgraded Redcat MT10E, and so I'm going to go over the upgrades I've made to this and show you a little bit of driving on 3S. Now, this doesn't really look much like the original. If you've seen either my videos or other videos of the MT10E, it has kind of a generic truck body and some pretty decent wheels, Redcat branded wheels and tires. This is fully upgraded, so I'm going to go through the upgrades here. But indeed, what lies below this and behind the tires and the body is really a great low cost brushless monster truck, the MT10E. But the upgrades I've made have made it quite a bit better. Okay, so let's start with the top. That is a Proline Raptor for the 1/10 scale Stampede. Technically, it actually has cutouts in the back specifically for the Stampede's body posts. I had to cut out my own here because, of course, this is not a Stampede, but it does fit, as you can see. The body actually is a pretty good match. It's maybe just a tad bit short, but if you've actually looked carefully at the original MT10E body, it's super short. This is actually about an inch longer than that body. Okay, also on here are Proline wheels and tires. These are the Proline Trenchers, and this is on a 17 millimeter hex. So you can see in there that's a 17 millimeter hex bolt or nut, I should say. And behind are the 17 millimeter hex adapters. That's an aftermarket part from Redcat, and I highly recommend it if you want to get some big tires like these, some upgraded tires. The Trenchers have a pretty aggressive tread. They're good for both off-road and street, which is why I got them, because I use this truck just about everywhere. If you really are just going to be doing off-road and in particular dirt, then you might want to go with the Badlands tires. But these are really good for a mix of everything. And another really great thing about these tires is they give it a really wide stance. They have a wider offset. And one of the problems with the MT10E out of the box is it flips a lot. And part of that is because it's just a little bit too narrow for its power and its speed. So this gives it a much wider stance. Now I'm going to pop this top off and show you some of the upgrades, other upgrades that lie beneath the truck body. All right, if you're familiar with the MT10E, you're probably going to start to recognize this truck. Yes, indeed, this is an MT10E, even if it looks like something else from the outside. So you're going to recognize that front bumper with the 3 lights. I'll turn it on in a minute so you can see those lights. These are original shocks, but I've upgraded with the heavy-duty springs, or heavy tension springs. They have this red line on the bottom, and that indicates they are the heavier springs. They are a necessity. I strongly recommend that everybody who has this truck pick those up. They're about $7 for 2 or $14 for the whole truck. Also on this truck are the anti-roll bars, front and rear. You can see it right here, and maybe it'll be easier to see the rear one. Here you go, yep. So that's the anti-roll bar, really easy to install. The hardest part is actually removing the wheelie bar, which I've done here. And actually I've replaced it with a T-bone racing bumper. I knew that when I was setting up this truck, I would not need that wheelie bar, and I'll tell you why in a moment. But this T-bone racing bumper is a lot better for when you're actually flipping and running into things than a wheelie bar, which doesn't provide much protection. So there you go. There's the anti-roll bar in the rear, and there's one in the front, which is a little bit harder to see. There it is. It totally improves the handling of this truck. It makes it into a new truck, along with the wider stance of these tires and the heavier springs, and also some thicker oil in the shocks. It's pretty much a new truck. It really handles like something completely different from the original. And these are cheap upgrades. So springs are $14 for them all. The anti-roll bars are maybe another $16 for each one, so that's $32. You got to get the 17 millimeter hexes, which, let me see if I can show you them. Oh no, you won't be able to see them from inside, but 17 millimeter hexes are maybe another 12 or $18. And the tires are the most expensive part, but that's the name of the game when it comes to Proline tires. But, you know, it turns it into a totally new truck. Also, upgraded here, you may notice this is not the original motor. This is a Hobby Wing 3660 can 4,000 kilovolt motor. This suggestion actually came from one of my viewers here on YouTube. He had an MT10E. He said he went with this motor, and he told me about the speed and the torque and the lower heat he was getting from that. versus the stock, and I was intrigued. And I went ahead and picked one up as well. I got this one from A-Main Hobbies. I think it goes for, gosh, I can't quite remember. I think it's something like $70. But it is a great investment. This motor is a little bit longer than the stock can. It's a lower kilovolt, but it's much higher torque, and that means it can really handle this truck a little bit better. I'm actually working with the original 9-tooth pinion, and I want to show you something that's a little bit of a problem. If you go in here, you see that this motor has what's really a standard 5mm shaft for an 1/8 scale truck or car, and it sticks out pretty far. I actually had to cut away some of the plastic frame here because this shaft was hitting the plastic. Another problem with this is actually some of the pinions I've tried from Techno, I've tried from Traxxas, they're too big to fit in here. Either they're too wide here and they hit this red mount here, like they'll actually scratch against it as they're rotating because they're too wide here at the base, or they're too long and they actually would just like stick out against and hit this plastic frame. So the ones that I found that fit are lossy, the lossy pinions actually will fit, and I do have a lossy 10-tooth pinion, which works fine here, but I'm actually using the original 9-tooth pinion because I'm running this on 3S. That's a 3S pack. That's a 3S Gens Ace pack, 5300 milliamp hour, 50C pack, and it just fits. You can see it's kind of leaning because it barely fits in there, but it works, and it provides tremendous power, and I like the performance with this motor with 3S. The 9-tooth pinion is fine. I've actually tested it with 11-tooth, and frankly, it was really hard to control. With the upgraded handling of the tires, the anti-roll bars, the shocks, it was drivable, but you have to be kind of in a wide open area. It was probably going close to 40 miles an hour with an 11-tooth pinion, and that's quite fast for a car this small. Anything else I want to show you? Oh, the one thing you can't see in here, which is super important and related to why I don't need a wheelie bar, is I've got a center diff in here, and I've done a separate video on the installation of that, and that's actually where I have picked up quite a number of viewers who are interested in seeing what else I did with this truck. The center diff was the first upgrade I made to this truck, and it's pretty critical if you want it to perform a little bit better. Without the center diff, it just wheelies like crazy all day long, which is kind of cool, but if you actually want to drive the truck, you need to put a center diff in. It's not really drivable when it has a locked spool in there. So that's pretty much it. So I've got the suspension upgrades, tire upgrades, the rear bumper, the motor. I have not changed out the ESC. That's an 80 amp Hobby Wing ESC. It doesn't have the Hobby Wing stickers on it because Redcat's kind of reselling it, but it's a Hobby Wing 80 amp unit, and it's been able to handle this just fine. So in my next video, I'm going to show you this truck running on 2S and 3S on road, so you get a feel for the speed. Just show you a little bit of off-road on 3S, but it's a little hard to open it up. You know, 3S is really, it's pretty fast, so it's a little hard to show you in a small area. But I'm going to take it out on the road, and in the next video, you'll see this truck running full speed. Okay, until then, enjoy your RCs, and I'll catch you later.